Hey there, fellow classic comic collectors. As always, I'm Scott Harris King, and today I'm standing a strange distance away from my camera. Usually, I'm up close so you can see my incredible locks of flowing hair, but today I'm standing way back here, and the reason is, of course, this shirt. So, today, what I want to be talking about is merchandise for small-time, independent, self-published creators like myself. I do my comic, The Crime Busters, that I've talked a lot about on the channel, and one of the challenges that indie creators like me have is merchandise because face it, as a small time creator, I'm doing Kickstarter to publish my comics, to get the money to print the comics and distribute them. There's a ton of overhead involved in trying to create merchandise, particularly when you have such a small fan base and you have no idea if anyone's ever going to buy any of it. So the idea of having, buying t-shirts, for instance, is a huge expense, because you don't know what size people are going to want, so you have to carry in a bunch of different sizes, and you'll have to buy a bunch, all the different, like, have piles of shirts available, and the overhead cost of doing it can be cost prohibitive, and that's just with shirts. Some other things that you can do are cheaper, they're more cost effective, so like buttons and stickers are things that you can do on a smaller scale in terms of merchandise, but for big things like shirts and hats and other things, it can be really difficult. So what I want to talk today about is using on-demand merchandise stores. Now, of course, for self-publishers, using on-demand printers is something that's very common. The type of printing that I do isn't really on demand because I'll order X number of copies and then I'll sell them, and when I sell out, I'll do a second print run. But there are some companies, like for instance Kablam has a true on-demand comic printing thing where you can set up your store so when someone orders it, the order goes to Kablam, they print one copy and mail it directly to the person. But there are also websites that do that for other types of merchandise, including t-shirts. And there's pros and cons to it, which is what I want to go over today. Just share my brief experiences. I've only been using this for a little while, so I'm new to the whole thing. But one of the reasons that I wanted to try it is to see how it works, see whether it's something that works for me, and then let you guys know those pros and cons. So the company that I've decided to use is called Redbubble. Redbubble is one of the biggest and best known and earliest of the sort of on-demand merchandise um, digital storefronts. They've been around since I think like 2006, so it's been like 15 years. And the premise is very simple. As a creator, what I do is I upload my artwork. I can upload different designs, and that template, then they have a bunch of stock items that they sell. T-shirts are just one of it. They have tons of different types of shirts. I'll show some of the other types off here because I have some samples. But they also do all sorts of other things. A lot of like notebooks, iPad cases, phone cases. They do prints, lots of different prints, including like metal prints and framed prints. But they'll do things like bath mats and shower curtains, duvet covers, blankets, clocks, like all sorts of things, water bottles and mugs and all sorts of different merchandise. So it's really very simple for me. I upload the image, then I go in and I adjust the image on the different templates to make sure it fits that template because they'll have different shapes, different sizes. So I got to make sure the image looks correct on all of them. And that's it. Then I share my link with my people, and it doesn't cost me anything to do. When someone buys something, there's a default markup. So, for instance, with a T-shirt, the markup I think everything's like 20%. But basically, if someone buys a T-shirt, I make like $3.50. And so Redbubble basically adds that into the cost, and it's passed on to the buyer. So that's one of the downsides, of course, is that things are going to be more expensive this way than if you were to create the merchandise yourself. So, for example, this T-shirt might be, I think, like $19 or something like that, maybe $20 for the T-shirt plus shipping. If I were to make these myself, the shirts might cost me $7 or $8 each to have them printed, and so on a per unit basis, they would cost a lot less, and I would be able to sell them for less. The problem is, as I discussed at the beginning of the video, might have to make 100 copies of the shirts because I'm going to have smalls and mediums and larges and extra larges and 2Xs and 3Xs. And then if I want to have black shirts and white shirts and blue shirts, then I'll have to have more of all of those. And so I may end up spending hundreds of dollars, and then have all these shirts and all, to sell like one or two. Whereas with this, the individual cost is more for the buyer, but there's no cost to me as the creator. So to me, it's not really about the money. The big thing for me is that I do have a handful of fans that have asked to have some kind of merchandise. They want to have a t-shirt or something like that. And so doing it this way just allows those people to get things. Frankly, I don't think I'm ever going to make money on this, in part because I bought a bunch of samples, both because I wanted to have shirts to wear, like when I'm doing conventions or doing videos like this or whatever, or appearing as a guest on someone else's podcast or YouTube channel. I want to have shirts to represent, and so I wanted to buy some for myself. When you buy stuff as a creator on Redbubble, they sell you to it at the base level, so you don't have that markup. So for instance, this t-shirt, instead of costing me like $19.80, it was like $16.30. The manufacturer and Redbubble themselves, they're still making their money. It's just you get it at cost, so you don't have to basically pay yourself that extra money, right? So you're not really getting a discount. You're just not paying the extra. And so as a result, I've spent like $200 on my own merchandise, and when the shirts, I'm only getting $3 each for them. If other people buy them, I'm never going to sell enough merchandise to actually make even make back the money that I've spent on it. Now, that's a personal choice. Obviously, you as a creator, if you're doing this sort of thing, you don't have to do that. But I just wanted to let you know, as a small-time creator, you're not going to really make that much money on this stuff, because obviously if you're a self-published small fish like us, then you just don't have the fan base to make a lot of money. However, it's a great way to get the brand out there. I think there's a benefit to just having the merchandise to legitimize the brand. Just having Crimebuster shirts and wearing them around, it makes it seem more like a real thing than it would otherwise. So I think there's a value just to them existing. Just being able to send out a newsletter with the photos of the models wearing your shirts legitimizes your enterprise in certain ways. So in terms of brand building, even if you don't sell anything, having things available to sell, I think is a nice benefit. So one of the great things Redbubble does is that they basically have all these stock images of their models wearing or showcasing the different products that the images can be put on. And then when you upload your designs, their system just automatically slaps your image onto their model. And as the creator, you have a place where you can download those images to share them. So I'll be able to take any of my designs and I can show them on different people wearing them and different things showcasing them. So I don't actually have to buy the items like I have chosen to do in order to show what they'll look like on people. And so that's another benefit. Now, there's other on-demand merchandise sites other than Redbubble. They have other pros and cons. One of the biggest things to think about is, again, the branding. As I mentioned, I think one of the biggest benefits of doing this at all as a small creator is for branding purposes. And when someone goes to Redbubble and buys something, they become Redbubble's customer. So they're going to receive their product in a bag that has the Redbubble logo. The shirts will have the tag of whichever manufacturer Redbubble has gone through, And then when they sign, when they buy the thing, they check out, they'll have the little things to check or uncheck for the mailing list. They're not going to your mailing list, they're going to Redbubble's mailing list. Now, for me, it's not a huge deal because the only people that are going to be buying my stuff are people that I direct to the site to get it. However, for other artists, it's a bigger deal because there's a lot of artists that aren't really comic book people that do a bunch of designs and they upload them to sites like Redbubble to make money off of the merchandising, and those people would be better suited to capturing those customers themselves rather than having those customers be Redbubble customers. So then Redbubble can advertise to them other people's artwork. I've seen this already when I've been going around Redbubble myself. I've seen people's, when you go to their shop, they'll have messages that are like, please don't click on anybody else's artwork, just look at mine, which I think is kind of rude, but there are alternatives. So there's these things that are called white label. I meant to write down the names of the websites. I'll include links below to some of those other options besides Redbubble. What they do is they also allow you, in addition to the merchandise, they allow you to upload your templates for the packaging. So when your buyer gets something in the mail, like a t-shirt, instead of coming in a Redbubble bag, it'll come in a Crimebusters bag. And they'll actually have the label. Will have your label on it. It'll say, have the Crimebusters on the label on the shirt, right? And the other thing they do is, instead of the being hosted on their website, you upload all the products to their thing, and there's like a template basically where you can then embed it like as a widget or something on your own website. So I could have crimebustercomics.com in my shop. Right now I just have the comics available, right? If I was going through one of these white label merchandise sites, I could have all of my merchandise on my own website, and then when someone clicks to buy it, it sends the order to this manufacturer, and then they send it out. So it all stays in-house. Someone buys it through my website, they're my customer, everything stays on my site. I capture their information in terms of keeping them around as a customer. So there's a lot of benefits to it. There are some downsides to it. The biggest downside being it's more expensive, because if you want to have your own packaging, you want to have your own labels, that all costs extra. So like if this shirt, again, to go back to the example. So let's say on Redbubble, it's $16.50 and then it's marked up to 20, right? If you go through one of these companies, it might be $16.50. You might have a smaller markup for your profit margin, so you might be able to sell a little bit cheaper, but then you're going to be adding $2.50 for the package, $2.50 to have your own label. So you're adding like $5 to the cost to keep your own branding on things. And again, that's passed on to the buyer. So things will be more expensive for the buyer, and there will be no additional benefit to the buyer. The benefit will be entirely to you. So you're basically going to be adding a premium to your fans when they purchase things. They're going to be paying a premium so that you can advertise better to them. So there's definitely benefits to it. But for me, I've decided just to go with Redbubble. Again, I'm not really trying to make money. Anyone that's going to be buying my stuff is going to be there because I sent them there. So I'm not really concerned about like keeping them my customer as opposed to Redbubble. So it's not a big deal. Also, I found the interface is really easy on Redbubble. Some of the other ones, it's more labor intensive. I'm not really a web guru. And so the idea of trying to figure out how to host the merchandise on my own site is an extra hurdle that I don't really want to have to deal with. So pros and cons, you need to just look at the stuff and see what works best for you. But let me just show you some of the other merchandise I have. This, of course, is the basic tee. You can get in a bunch of colors. I'll have the logo and the image from the cover of issue 1. I did some character tees. Here is my character Vera, who's like the science person in the group. And I have a bunch of different designs with Vera. So, I have this shirt. I have it where instead of saying science, the image is a little smaller and it has her name. It says Vera Veritas, Science Adventurer. I have versions of this where it just has the Crimebusters logo above her. So I've got like 9 different versions of the shirt with the same image. And what's great about Redbubble is once you've uploaded one and you adjust the image, to all the different things, you can then save that as a template and upload another image, and it'll just replace it. So it'll keep your settings for how you've shrunk or moved the image to fit the particular product. It'll save all that, so you can, once you have that set up, if you upload another image that's the same like size and shape, you won't have to deal with recalibrating all that stuff. Here's my Trixie shirt. Again, I have multiple versions of this. With all the characters, I basically, it's Trixie Trouble, and it says "Here Comes Trouble" with a picture of her. Again, I have different versions of this with and without the logo. I've chosen to get them without the logo, which is probably a bad idea, but I'm going to be mostly wearing these when I'm standing behind my booth at conventions, so it's going to be obvious. This one is Chuck Chandler Crime Buster. It says busting crime since 1942. This is one where, on the other hand, where I wanted to have some without the logo specifically because it is a public domain character. There's going to be fans of the character who maybe don't read Crime Busters but are fans of Crime Buster himself from the Boy Comics run in the 40s. I have a friend who is a big fan of Lev Gleason comics and has a complete run of Boy Comics and is a Crime Buster fan, and he bought one of these shirts as well for that reason. Here is a granny shirt dress. It's got the whole cover, the granny variant cover for issue 3. And I've done that with some of the other covers I have. You can just get the shirt that has the cover on it. I've also got some of my Cthulhu versus Uncle Sam artwork. I'm starting to put on some of those shirts as well. I want to get that ramped up so that when we go live with that project this summer, the merchandise is available as well for people, because I think that that it just is, it's a cool thing. This is my wife. I bought this for my wife. She wanted this one. Now, one of the reasons I got all these samples is I wanted to make sure this stuff was good. And so I did want to mention there's been a couple quirks, which is that these different types of products are actually made by different manufacturers. So someone buys through Redbubble. Redbubble has a whole bunch of different vendors that they work with, and they send the order out. I have a suspicion that the t-shirts are actually made by multiple companies as well, just the basic t-shirts, and it's whoever has the availability. But different types of shirts are made by different manufacturers. So the granny shirt dress was made by one company. The Trixie baseball tee was made by a second company. All of the other basic tees were made by a third company. And so the quality is a little bit different. That's one of the downsides of doing it this way, is that you don't really have control over the manufacturing or the quality. If you were, if I was making the shirts myself or hiring a shirt company to make 100 copies of the shirts and I'm going to buy them all up front or whatever, again, that would cost me hundreds and hundreds of dollars, but I would have more control over, I could pick out the type of material I want, the fit, the weave, so how soft it is and stuff. I could make sure that the manufacturing was good. Can't really do any of that with Redbubble. You just have to trust it. And so one of the samples I got actually wasn't a huge fan of. So I do want to show this as well. So this is similar to what I'm wearing. A couple things I realized when I got it, that my design was off. So the logo and the image were too low. They looked okay on the picture, but they didn't wear well. So I moved it up. So it's here across my chest instead of here across my belly. But the other thing is, so this is what's called an active tee. It's one of these like moisture wicking things for like running or whatever crazy people do that exercise. And so it's a totally different material. So the t-shirt, they can print the stuff right on the shirt, but with this they can't because of the material. So instead it's like a decal that's been affixed to it. And if you can see here the difference in the colors, this one actually came out with the decal. The colors are not nearly as bright. They're faded across the board. The green is more faded. The yellows, the blues, the reds, they're all faded compared to the true colors that are shown on the other t-shirts. Again, it's a function of the material and the way they had to manufacture it with this, like, I don't want to say an iron-on, but that kind of like patch basically attached to it. And so I didn't love this. Now, the shirt itself is high quality and is really comfortable. So for people, I left it as an option for people to buy, people who are really into, rowing, I guess. I don't know. I don't, I try not to go outdoors or do any kind of physical activity. But for those who do, this is a great option in terms of the comfort and the wear. So I did leave it as an option, but I personally was not thrilled with the colors. I don't have it here, but I also bought a sticker. There's a bunch of different sticker options. I tried one with one of the stickers, and I had a very complex cover design with a lot of text that was shrunk down to a little size, and it didn't come out that great. It had a bit of a sort of dot matrix look to it. I think it was because of the sizing, but I'm not 100% sure. On the other hand, I also got a set of coasters with my Vera artwork from the variant cover, one of the variant covers for issue 2. And these came out really well. They have a sort of, I don't know if you can see, there's almost like a pointillism sort of dot you can see in everything. But I think it looks good. It looks better than the sticker. So I'm happy enough with these, except for the fact that I never use coasters, and I don't know why I spent $12 on these coasters, considering I'm never going to use them. So in some future contests, I'll probably give these away because they're really, really cool. I just don't have any use for them. And that does bring me up to one last thing that I wanted to mention about Redbubble. So you can see here, it's Vera. It's an homage to Planet Comics 71. And Vera is flying in space, and she's got a ray gun, and she's shooting. Now, Redbubble considers guns to be adult content, which I don't really have a problem with. It's fine, except that it hides any of the images with adult content behind a mature content label. And so my cover, my granny cover as well, all my granny merchandise, you can see that she's holding a pistol, right? She's holding a pistol. These two images are marked as mature, and they're hidden behind a thing. You have to click on it and allow for mature content before the website will show it to you. Their mature content thing is like it's like the Redbubble logo, but it's got like fig leaves covering it. It kind of gives the impression as a result of that my content is being hidden because of sexual content. And considering that my series is not exactly all ages because of the violence, but it's basically like 12 and up or 10 and up, it's intended, it doesn't have any sexual content and will not. And so as a result, it gives an impression that I really don't like because it sort of misrepresents my brand. Again, I don't have a problem with them marking the guns as mature content, but as a result of the way that they present mature content, it gives a misleading impression of what kind of content I'm uploading. And so when I'm sharing my link with people, I have to put in a disclaimer to explain that these images are being blocked or being hidden not because of any sexual content, but because of the guns. And so that is something that I don't really like. Doesn't really fit with my personal brand. On the other hand, I really wanted to have these images available because they're two of my best covers and two characters that I love. And so I know there's going to be people that want these images specifically on things. So I needed to have them available. But as a result, when you go to my site, it doesn't look quite the way I want to, and it gives a sort of a false impression of what kind of artwork I'm uploading. So that's just something to keep in mind if you're a creator and you're going to make merchandise with your comic through Redbubble specifically. Just keep that in mind when you're deciding what images to upload, because that may come into play depending on what your comic is about and what your image is about. So that's it. I hope this has helped someone. I'm going to have links to everything below. I'll have links to Redbubble and some of the other competitors, so you can take a look at the different options available. I'll have a link to my site so you can see exactly what I'm talking about in terms of the merchandise and also the mature content and all the stuff I've been talking about. You'll be able to see. You can see on my shop as an example. Again. So far, I've spent $185 on my own merchandise, and I've sold one shirt and made $3 on it. So this is not something you should really expect as a small indie creator to make a bunch of money on, but it's a great way to make merchandise available to your fans, and it's a great way to build brand awareness and legitimize your brand. Because next time I go to a convention, instead of wearing a t-shirt that's hyping some other company's comics, some other character, instead of wearing my Avengers t-shirt or something, I'll be able to wear my own Crimebuster shirts for every day of the convention, because I have a whole bunch of different ones. And I think it's just a great way to build that brand awareness and make merchandise available to your fans without having a huge overhead cost to you. So that's it. I hope this helped. And if anyone has any questions about any of this, please feel free to leave them below, and I'll answer them as best I can. So thanks very much, and I'll see you next time.